Why, hello, it is I, Chris Brogan, with your brief for Wednesday, the 22nd of November. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving in America. This show is all about sharing with you stories and ideas that I found from all around various parts of the web, and sometimes shared by you, that I find might be useful to you in some part of aspects of your business or your life. This show is created using eCam Live. It's the easiest way to do Facebook Live on a Mac, and it's a show that you can create yourself in your own format if you want. All the stories I cover are shared for you right easily at chrisbrogan.com/CBM. You don't have to take my word for it. And if you want to go deeper on any single thing I share with you, you can go yourself to chrisbrogan.com/CBM to follow along on your own steam and decide what you want to do. First story of the day is talking about what it's going to take to make smart cities. What's interesting about the whole smart city concept is it's coming now a lot faster than this whole situation you would think, because with regards to the land of smart cities, what's going to happen is that you're going to find all kinds of requirements for how this data gets moved around and what it's going to do for us. And that's going to require strong leadership, according to this article that I found in VentureBeat. Definitely worth checking out, and most especially because with regards to planning this stuff, we always have this feeling like it's going to come sometime, you know, in the future, and in this case it's not. It's already going to be here. So that's that. Hey Jeff, good to see you, Mr. Author, sir. Glad that you're here. Beyond smart cities, the question becomes, what kind of jobs are people going to have in these futures, right? So I was always a fan of those Richard Scarry children's books where they showed all the various jobs. Well, here's 21 strange jobs that humans will probably have in the future. Data detective is one, you know, and by the way, there's already precedent for this. There's people like Apple being subpoenaed because the Texas gunman's phone needed to be unlocked. There's a lot of reasons why we're going to need to pull data from things like smart devices. Cyber city analyst. I just talked to you about the smart city. Well, who's going to help analyze that stuff? Who's going to build journeys for augmented reality? This will be like being an Imagineer at Disney, only in the land of augmented reality. And plenty more. This is a really fun article to read. This is an Inc. magazine, and definitely worth checking out the 21 jobs that they think might come in the future. Some are a little hokey, and some of them are not especially, I think, likely to come forward. Artificial intelligence. We talk about artificial and augmented intelligence all the time, but what does that really mean? I found an article for you in BBN's Times magazine, which is talking about demystifying AI. It talks about the start of the history of it, kind of where it all came from in the past, but then also it goes into some more information about where it's going, what things you should be thinking about. It also, you know, points out things like video games. Blinky, is that an AI? Of course it was, but it's not how we normally think about it. It also goes on to explain the difference between what are called sort of open-ended artificial intelligence versus limited intelligences, etc. You know, we've talked about smart futures, we've talked about AI and things like that. What about really simple things like your mobile device? Is your mobile device keeping more data or tracking more data than you think? Of course it is. Google is reportedly collecting all kinds of Android data even when your location services are off, because location is just using GPS. What Google is also capturing is whenever your phone hits certain cell towers, it's capturing that almost like cookie crumbs when you're going to browsers. So whether or not you've given Google permission to do this, it knows and says this is where you're going on all Android phones. It's not something that should surprise you, but this is one of those cases of boiling frogs, right? This is, you know, how much privacy are we giving away and how much privacy are we willing to give away for the convenience of our devices? That is, you know, where you start to worry about and think about these kinds of things. Well, let me dig into that even a little further, because Sensory's new Fujitsu partnership means that your face could become a lot more valuable to enterprises. I don't know if you remember seeing the Minority Report. There was definitely a scene where Tom Cruise was walking down a street, and because of facial recognition, the various billboards were clicking off ads. That's the least dangerous thing that could possibly happen in the future, where your face is so well known by technology walking along. This is already something I covered before. I also put another link back in these notes for today about that video called Slaughterbots, where it talked about what happens if the wrong people get access to your facial recognition data. Kind of spooky, not necessarily far-fetched, and that, you know, is something to be thinking about. I don't know what we do with that information. A lot of the stories I like to capture here, there's a way to start thinking about what this can do to impact your business or your life. With a whole bunch of computers passing around your facial details, I don't know what we do with that. It's a little spooky. In the not-so-spooky news, WeWork has sponsored $32 million to a ladies-only co-working space called The Wing. This gets interesting because not only has WeWork gone from being a not-so-popular thing to a vastly popular mega-billion-dollar valuation thing, but now also changing it up to not just co-working spaces, but here's a female co-working space. There are going to be other variations on co-working spaces. This points to a trend that I've been talking about a lot, which is that the larger generic version of stuff is no longer going to be interesting enough to gather someone's attention. We're going to have to ratchet down into smaller spaces and pay a little bit more attention. I wanted to give you a couple really practical stories, but still kind of keep with this theme of what kind of trends and future information. But this is stuff you could use today. This one is how to get a whole bunch of webinar registrations and sales using a chatbot. Now, what's cool about this is Chatbots Magazine, which is a Medium publication. And what's interesting about it is they walk you through all the steps of how to do this. So you could do this today. You could test this today and see what it takes to use a chatbot to set up some kind of a story. So even if you just watch this little visual go along, this tells you how this worked and what they did. And this shows you the flow through of how it played on Messenger. Very interesting, very useful, something you could put into play right today. I thought that was cool. One of my best, least kept secrets is I really love the stuff I learned on Shopify Blog. I don't read very many company blogs. They're almost all junk, right? But the Shopify blog, for reasons I don't know, consistently has really interesting articles that I find well written and well conceived. And I don't know who's over there writing them because it's not always the same person, but boy, they're good. So this one was how to create a do-it-yourself version of a stunning visual brand for any of your online platforms with no Photoshop skills. I thought they were just going to say, hey, just open up Canva and just do whatever. This is a really interesting primer. It goes all the way through it. And it talks about a particular app called Hatchful that I had never heard about that can also help with this with a bunch of templates and that sort of a thing. And it's definitely worth checking out. As I pointed out at the beginning of the show, all you have to do is go to chrisbrogan.com/CBM, or sometimes it's even just the very first thing you see on the top of the page, and you can see these stories for yourself. You don't have to take my word for it, and you don't have to let my 2 sentences give you the end of the story. You can go right into it and go in depth. That's the whole point. My idea of creating these trends videos for you is to give you something, have you go, oh, that's interesting, and then have you go further with it. If it ends just with my couple of sentences, I'm probably not going to get enough to do anything with it. In plant-based news, I reported a very similar story yesterday, but boy, oh boy, the meat industry has warned that you better be ready to fight because fake meat as an alternative protein industry is a big thing. What they're saying is this. They're saying, we're so frustrated that people are starting to eat lots more veggie burgers and fake chicken products and all these kinds of things, that there are all kinds of new protests coming from the industries that are feeling threatened and displaced, because that's what industries do, is protect themselves. Good morning to you, Jason Croft. So happy to see you. Thanks for being part of the storyline here today. Now, I said, all industries seem to want to protect themselves, and it looks like the meat and dairy industries are definitely feeling threatened by plant-based foods. But, don't worry, because everyone knows that all industries are very kind and only want our best interest handled and all that, which is why, of course, the sugar story is all about what happened with sugar's health effects but didn't tell us. This article, which was published in National Public Radio, was quite interesting insofar as they're pointing out that there was all kinds of study results that were covered up in the 1960s so that they would be able to preserve the sugar industry. I'm going to point out something to you that you haven't really thought about. This is a reasonably recent change. As people started protesting sugar in cereals, especially in the United States, they started saying, well, cereals are too sugary and we don't want these sugary cereals for the kids. The cereal industry said, hey, no problem, we'll take out the sugars, we'll make it really low. Guess where all that sugar went? It went over to the dairy aisle, it's in the yogurt. Yogurt has 30 to 50 grams of sugar, depending on the brand, inside of each little cup of yogurt. So you tell your kid, have yogurt, it's more healthy than that sugary cereal. All the sugar snuck across the aisle to yogurt. Sugar finds its way into different platforms. Now, I'm not over here like, you should not have sugar. I'm saying that there's a whole lot of information that points to the fact that this maybe isn't the best deal in the world. Hey, it is the futuristic man himself, Mitch Jackson, the future lawyer, showing people the future of all these various different technologies, and also dear Rebecca, who I haven't seen in person in a little while. I think we're way overdue for a rehug. But Rebecca points out that it's interesting that there are a lot of people saying that meat substitutes are not good for you. Now, by the way, just because something is plant-based doesn't necessarily mean it's good. Oreos are vegan, by the way. Oreos are officially vegan. Well, they also have a lard type product in the middle of them, a vegetable oil that's super hydrogenated, which is also not especially good for you. So it is crazy to note that plant-based isn't necessarily healthy. In these cases where they're saying it's not healthy, there's some technical science behind some of that. Mitch says, it's amazing how much sugar is in our everyday food. Yeah, I have friends who come over from various places like Europe, and they say, I can't believe that your bread tastes sweet like a cookie. Hey, Noor, there's a futurist. I like to follow Noor's stories because she covers places that I don't even always get to see, and I learn a lot from her. One last thing about plant-based food. So the other thing is that there are certain, if you go to a purely plant-based diet, there's some vitamin deficiencies that you have to worry about. You lose some essential fatty acids and amino acids. Some B vitamins get a little bit twistier because they're a little more easily processed and easily available in animal proteins. There are ways around it. But, when I advocate eating plant-based, I'm saying just put some more plants in your diet. You could keep meat in your diet, just maybe have less of the meat. Most societies besides the U.S. culture have for the longest time survived on very small portions like the size of the palm of your hand, which is, by the way, still the requirement that people say you need for meat products in the U.S. Because I don't eat them, I have found other ways to get those vitamins, but it's definitely worth it. All kinds of good stuff out there. Hey, as always, I end the show showing off some kind of fun cosplay or nerdy nerd stuff. This one was so cool. This is, if you know the game Overwatch, this is a Diva outfit, but this turns out to be a working Diva costume. What I like about this is fan-driven culture. This is some stuff where someone decides they like Overwatch and they want to be part of the culture and they want you to see it. And so these people created a cool Diva costume. Let's see if I can get this centered. Look at this thing in motion. It is crazy. Let me turn the sound off. And of course, my internet is going dog slow all of a sudden. You poops. See if I can skip it forward just a little bit. Nope. In fact, I'm going to freeze the page. Oh, there it is. There it is moving. So that's just nuts to me. The fact that this person made a working mecha type suit that you could walk around in and look just like Diva from Overwatch, that's pretty darn cool. Click through the links yourself. You could find it better on my page and maybe it'll render a little bit faster for you. I guess I just had a glitch. Both kids are hanging out with me, so we sort of share the internet at those moments. Again, get these stories for yourself, chrisbrogan.com/CBM. You can find all the information. You can find out all the stories I cover in the trends in the brief and share all the information you want for yourself. Here's my daughter walking by. Hey, I'm Chris Brogan. Thanks so much for your time. Drop me a line, chris@chrisbrogan.com. So glad everyone was able to swing by. Hey, Ferg. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for being part of the show. Catch you a little bit later on. Where's the button?